Highly critical, yes.
Exactly. And our goal here isn't just about, political opinions. We want to unpack the specific criticisms and understand the kind of unique analytical view this poet brings.
Right, because it's not just disagreement. The poet is really dissecting the former president's, his whole demeanor and way of speaking, using a very specific framework.
Okay, so let's get into that. The poem hits hard right away on his verbal style, you could say. It talks about irresponsible remarks making the mind numb.
And that phrase, impulsively statements you dump, it points to a real lack of verbal control, doesn't it?
It does. And it gets specific, mentioning some of the more, unusual claims, like Trump claiming he made a straight jump from heaven.
Which the poem seems to seize on. It uses that kind of thing as evidence for what it calls a clownish nature, a clownish presidential style.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It says America has had clownish presidents before, but only a few.
Implying this instance is somehow different, or perhaps more impactful.
Seems so. The poem says the result this time is helplessness, cry, and hew. That's a pretty strong reaction tied directly to, how the leader comes across.
And this is where the poet's own background becomes really crucial, I think.
Right, tell us about that.
Well, Jayas Sakian is described as a popular Tamil transactional analyst from Coimbatore. Now, transactional analysis, or TA, it's a specific psychological theory.
Okay.
It looks at communication, basically. It analyzes which ego state someone's operating from, parent, adult, or child, so it's about behavior patterns.
Ah, I see. So you're saying this critique is less about, say, policy decisions and more a behavioral analysis applied to a world leader.
Exactly. It's looking through that TA lens. The poem itself is described as a retaliation.
A retaliation? Against what specifically?
Against what the poet sees as arbitrary and unchecked obnoxious activities, things causing messes in world politics.
Okay, so how does the TA part connect? That straight jump from heaven line, for example.
Well, from a TA perspective, that kind of grandiosity, that impulsive claim, might be seen as, maybe the free child ego state. Impulsive, not really filtered by the adult state.
Which would fit the clownish description the poem uses.
Precisely. And it extends that view. It suggests Trump's actions speak only of a businessman's innate frown.
Implying maybe a focus on self-interest, like the parent or child ego state, overriding the sort of objective adult state needed for leadership, leading to this not wholesome view the poem mentions.
That seems to be the interpretation, yes. It's framing the behavior analytically, not just politically. And the overall theme that emerges from this is one of decline.
Decline for America.
Yes. The poem looks back, saying so pridefully America used to raise its thumb, contrasting that past pride with the present.
And it argues this approach is actually reducing America's pride down. So a loss of status.
A loss of status. And it explicitly links this to the economy falling into pathetic drown. A dual decline, pride, and economics.
And it has that really odd line, doesn't it, about giving India an economic bump.
While simultaneously, the poem says, appearing to be a 2-year-old. It's a striking image connecting perceived immaturity directly to global economic interactions.
It's quite a critique. It paints a picture of self-inflicted damage on the world stage, driven by demeanor.
What's really valuable here, I think, is that it's a record, an analytical record from an expert in behavior, looking at a presidency not through policy analysis primarily, but through rhetoric and perceived psychological patterns.
So for you listening, it's a fascinating perspective. This poem offers a really detailed look at how leadership style, not just substance, was perceived internationally by someone using a behavioral analysis framework.
It really does.
Which leaves us with a thought. Considering this kind of analytical critique, one focused so heavily on perceived impulsivity and demeanor. What kind of actual impact does a leader's perceived behavior have on something as concrete as a nation's economic standing? Something to think about.